As the wind blows here in Philadelphia and right outside of our studios, that's the way it goes in professional sports too. As the wind blows. Welcome to the PHLY Sixers podcast on a Tuesday, a 3 p.m. show. Get used to it, folks, because we only have 3 games left for the regular season. All of next week, and of course the offseason will be with you at 3 p.m. Hope you can join us. Derek Bodner, Kyle Newbeck, I'm Devon Givens. Bree with us as always. Great to have you guys hanging out with us, guys and gals hanging out with us in the chat to talk some Sixers. But yes, as the NBA turns, Kyle Newbeck, we get the news that your favorite fan base has something to talk about.
My favorite coach, too.
Your favorite
guy
coach.
Whose personality I really love.
Yeah, call him Mike Malone, not even Michael on the way out of the door, because the Denver Nuggets shake up some things with the NBA. 3 games left and a week before the playoffs get underway, and this stuff happens. So we'll start there. We'll get to a fun game a little bit later to talk about that. We'll have our daily tankathon spin a little bit later as well. Denver might be in the lottery this year if they don't make the playoffs based on how things are going. But
the West playoff picture is wild,
it's
man.
Nuts,
There's
man.
half a game of separation between the Nuggets and the current 8 seed.
Yes, unbelievable stuff. But the news, Michael Malone and Calvin Booth let go by the Denver Nuggets this afternoon, shaking up things with 3 games to go for them. They have a nationally televised game tomorrow night against the Sacramento Kings. That should be fun. And then 2 more there following. And as Kyle said, they're right there currently in the 4th spot, tied for 3rd, 4th.
Well, and that's a
5th.
wild thing. They're the 4th record. They have a chance to finish as low as 8th, and they're 47-32. Like, that's how jumbled up it is with 3 games left.
Unbelievable. So the first thing that came to mind, Kyle, Denver Nuggets make this move. First, it was the Michael Malone news. Then it followed up about 10 minutes later that Calvin Booth, who's the general manager, is also being let go. Your thoughts?
Well, I have many. Let's start with the more serious thoughts before I cut a promo up here like I'm Ric Flair. So the first thing is I did the same thing as when the Luka trade happened. Where
Check to make sure it's
I
right
saw
account.
it come up and I was like, is this like NBA Centel or some other ball sack sports or one of these other parody places that just catches people slipping? So you take the moment. I actually had just gotten in my car and was about to drive. So I was like, let me not operate a moving vehicle and figure out if this is authentic or not. And you start to go through your head like, all right, why does this happen? Why would it happen now? This is tied for the latest firing in history, right?
Yeah, history.
It's tied with Hubie
And you have to go
Brown.
back like 40 years.
Yeah, it's Hubie Brown, who just retired from not coaching, but commentating on games. Like, that's how unprecedented this is. That's how long ago a move like this happened. And I think the simple answer is the answer that you're hearing from certainly people in Denver, but a lot of national people around the league as well, which is it's been an open secret around the NBA that Calvin Booth and Mike Malone have had basically no alignment for the last couple of years. And that's just, we talk all the time on this show about how much of what you guys see and what we try to inform you about is driven by the politics, the relationships, the management of egos, all the things, just an organization working in lockstep, right? Like your one hand moves, the other hand moves, one leg moves, one foot in front of the other, that everyone is marching to the beat of the same drum and trying to do the same things so that if a GM signs a guy and says, hey, I'm giving this guy $10 million a year, that comes with the expectation he's going to be a regular part of the rotation. You got to ride that player through some ups and downs. And if he doesn't play well, that I'm backing this guy. And so clearly there was a divide between those 2 power figures in the front office and at the head of the coaching staff. That the shock is that this happened now. It's not that it was shocking that it happened at all. I think based on where the Nuggets season has been heading for a little bit, it absolutely looked like one or more major figures in that organization were going to be on the way out. But the less serious side of me is like, man, it's crazy that a guy who's apparently having the greatest season in the history of basketball and reinvented the sport and is the folk hero that everyone needs to look up to and say he's the MVP no matter what, apparently isn't good enough to save people's jobs before the season ends. So I don't know. It is a wild move. And I think the craziest part to me is that this is increasingly the reality, not just in the NBA, but in professional sports, right? Where a head coach can be the guy who delivers the first title in the history of a franchise, is the winningest coach in the history of that franchise that otherwise is filled with mostly just being losers or irrelevant, or they're most well known for Carmelo Anthony making a Western Conference Finals, or Doug Moe teams running up scores for teams that were not all that successful way back in the 80s. And within 2 years of winning that title, you're out the door. Like, things can change that quickly, whether it's because of the relationship in the front office, whether it's because of the disconnect you might have with players. Like, I don't know if you guys saw Malone last night talking about, or maybe it was 2 nights ago, last night, sometime in the last 2 days, basically saying, I know guys aren't going to watch film and that we have to make them watch film. It's like, you might as well say, I know I'm going to get fired because nobody's listening to me, right? That's a crazy thing to say with 3-4 games left in the regular season. It's unbelievable that a team is still 15 games over 500 in spite of all of this stuff that was clearly going on.
This is some of the dumbest shit I've ever seen. So, like, there's a couple of reasons I say this. On the one hand, what Kyle mentioned there at the end is broadly true. Like, you can win a title, and 2 years later, you're on the outs. That itself, there's some times where a team, an organization will start tuning you out. Like, this isn't a normal job. This isn't a normal job where, like, your past performance will necessarily indicate your future success, in part because it can just run its course. It can just be a relationship that both sides need to move on from. That happens in this industry more than it happens in, like, a normal 9-to-5 job. So there is some, like, you are going to have reactionary, or you're going to have changes that seem abrupt that aren't actually reactionary. They're needed to change, the direction of the franchise. But there also is a lot of owners who are just reactionary, who there's a little bit of blowback, a little bit of scrutiny. You're not meeting expectations, and the coach is the easiest lever to pull. And that, I think, can get in the way of a lot of really sustained success. Like, if you're changing your culture, if you're changing your foundation every 3 to 4 years, just because you're not winning a title every time, that will doom you. It's sometimes hard to necessarily figure out which is which. And I think this is an instance, because like what you're saying, because they have struggled, because there are signs of the players tuning him out, it's hard to really know which one this is. So I give them a little bit of an out because of that. But doing it with 3 games left is absolute madness. Like, yes, you might get a dead cat bounce just because you bring up, elevate an assistant coach, David Adelman. Good luck moving on from the 76th place on to coaching. It's a big step. Wish him well. You might get a dead cat bounce because you have a different voice and people are locked in. That bounce isn't going to last you 2 months into the NBA Finals.
No.
You need some kind of consistency going into the biggest games of the season in order to really reach the highest levels. I do think this is something where you had Malone and you had Booth, and they clearly weren't on the same page. Making a change makes sense. Booth, I thought, quite frankly, if you'd gone back and listened to some of our talk before the season, I thought Booth was completely overrated. I didn't think he was doing a good job of finding creative ways to bring in depth around their core 4. He didn't have a contract. His contract was up at the end of the year. Moving on from him made sense. If you want to say, all right, we're going to preempt the market, like get out in front of the market, there's really nothing left for him to do this year. So we're going to move on from him early. I get that. Changing a coach for a team that's winning 47 games, has a chance to reach 50 wins, has a chance to be a top 4 seed, and has championship aspirations with 3 freaking games left is absolute madness.
And
madness.
With those 3 games left and doing that, as Kyle mentioned earlier, head coach has the most wins in history done this year as he breaks that record this year for the Denver Nuggets. Just to give you the statement from Josh Kroenke, the vice chairman of Kroenke Sports and Entertainment. He said the decision was not made lightly. While the timing of the decision is unfortunate, as Coach Malone helped build the foundation of our.
As if they don't control the timing of the fire. Look, it fell out of the sky.
We're all trying to find the people who did this.
We brought down the stone tablets from the mountain, and it said, well, today's the day.
As Coach Malone helped build the foundation of our now championship level program, it is a necessary step to allow us to compete at the highest level right now. Championship level standards and expectations remain in place for the current season. And as we look to the future, we look forward to building on the foundations laid by Coach Malone over his record-breaking 10-year career in Denver. Also adding that while the move was evaluated very carefully, and we do it only with the intention of giving our group the best chance at competing for the 2025 NBA championship and delivering another title to Denver and our fans everywhere. That is again, Vice Chairman of Kroenke Sports and Entertainment, Josh Kroenke, with the statement after this major shakeup with the Denver Nuggets. And the other part, too, as you mentioned.
I can't get over the timing of this decision is unfortunate.
So
Bro, you made the decision.
When you mentioned the press conference that Michael Malone had and he said this stuff, it was really funny as you listened to it because he also curses in there, and it was really funny. You could just tell he was just done. And then I also, earlier today, before any of this happened, I saw a video where Aaron Gordon and Peyton Watson were talking on the bench. This is normal basketball stuff, but you could see, again, where we talked about it when it happened with Memphis, with Desmond Bane shoving Santi Aldama on the sideline because of whatever little mishap they had there, whatever.
Yeah, he was criticizing his defense, I think.
Criticizing the defense. Aaron Gordon is talking to Peyton Watson. Peyton Watson is not liking it. Now they're barking at each other on the sideline, and you don't see that stuff. Now you see these things in basketball. These things happen. But when you get a big-time shakeup like this and you get something that comes out of nowhere with 3 games left, now you go point back to everything. Russell Westbrook's press conference after the game where he's really, really short and laughing when answering the questions to the media because now people are going back saying he must have known something, or based on he may have known that they were going to get fired.
Some of that's just Westbrook being a word I'm not going to say on this show.
And just stuff happening where, again, whatever's going on there, he's in the locker room, he sees it, not knowing that the man was going to get fired, but he's there. He sees things are not going according to plan with this team heading into the postseason, Westbrook being Westbrook with it. But you just go back to everything now. Everything has a spotlight on it because of this news coming down here today. And it's just weird. The timing, as the guys said, 3 games left and you are right there to lock in that 4th seed, a game and a half back of the Lakers currently. But overall, you are right there in terms of being one of the top 4 teams in the Western Conference, where you can avoid playing somebody like the Oklahoma City Thunder early. You can only match up with them in the 2nd round. You can avoid, if you maybe sneak into that 3 seed, you have Houston in that 2nd round. And here we are right now where they could fall all the way to 8th because Memphis is 46-32, where Denver's only a half a game in front of them right now. This is going to be a while. And they play the Kings tomorrow. While the Kings are fighting for their 9-10, they're still fighting. And Denver can't afford to lose any of these games with all of these other teams right behind them.
I'm going to say something that applies to a lot of teams. I think this is a great lesson in the value of organizational humility, right? Like, there are a lot of people and a lot of teams who experience success, and all of a sudden they think they have reinvented the sport, right? Like, that the decisions they made, nobody else would have made, nobody else could have done this, and the league is now on notice. We own the next 5 years. This is my time. And in many cases, like we can point to the Sixers, they don't even have their time, right? They experience some success when they're young. We see it with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. They make the playoffs their first season together. They win 50 games. They're a 3 seed. They win a playoff series. It's like, man, they could be in a conference finals. And then they lose in the 2nd round. It's like, oh, well, this is just the first time around. You don't know what's going to, like, these guys have 10 years, 15 years. We have all kinds of opportunities. We did this, and we can play fast and loose because we've accumulated all this. Think about, and the Warriors on the high end of the success, They said, we won these titles. We were able to get Kevin Durant in here. We're going to have it both ways. We're going to do 2 timelines. We're going to draft the biggest project that we can in James Wiseman, and he's going to be our bridge to the next era while fitting with Steph Curry. Like the Lakers, right? The Lakers go through a period where they're just in the wilderness. They're a bad team because it's like, we're LA. We'll figure it out. People will come and play here. No, they won't. If you have a bad team and a bad setup and you're bleeding draft picks to bring in different guys, or you're not making the right moves as an organization, you end up in the middle of nowhere. So what I think has happened to the Nuggets is something that happens to a lot of people who experience new success or find themselves in a position where you're ahead of schedule, you're somewhere that you haven't been before. Everyone starts to say, I'm the reason this happened. I'm the reason that we're as good as we are. I'm the reason that the Nikola Jokic thing works. I'm the reason that him and Jamal Murray figured this out. I drafted or I scouted these young players. I was instrumental in this guy coming here, or us retaining this free agent versus this guy. And it just becomes ego and ego and ego and ego. And instead of being a group that is all together and saying, hey, we achieved this, we did this, it becomes a bunch of little splinter factions where when things are good, people are just happy to say, hey, we're rolling, whatever. But the second that you experience a downturn and adversity, and you have to all look at yourselves in the mirror and say, what am I doing that's hurting us? Instead, it becomes an outward, what are you doing that's screwing me up that is then having an impact on the organization? And that's a really hard thing to come back from. And that's why, to me, I think they fired both, even though I think there's probably a cleaner and clearer case to fire Booth, because from what we can tell, nobody in that organization, at least on the behind the scenes coaching front office side, was able to properly say, all right, I'm to blame for this. Like, I can take accountability and responsibility and say, this is my bad. Like, if this well was poisoned, if this went wrong, if we went down a path that we shouldn't have, I own that, and that was my fault. It just seems like it's been a lot of passing the buck, and that's how you end up in a situation where a week before the playoffs start, your 2 most powerful people who are not players are out of the organization.
A lot of legs to this story and things that follow behind it. We'll talk about it more on the other side of what things could look like. Not that we care all that much about the Denver Nuggets, but if one shakeup starts, other things typically follow behind. So we'll get into that. And we know, like Chris says in the chat, Chris Jefferson patiently waiting for Nick Nurse to get fired. So when things like this happens, it makes you think about your basketball team and how no one is safe. We'll talk about it all. We'll get to our daily Tankathon spin, Tank Watch a little bit later, and a fun little game at the end of the show with the team here. It's the PHLY Sixers podcast on a Tuesday, presented by Bet365.
How does that old saying go, Devon? The future is bright?
The future is bright.
Do you think the future is looking bright in Denver right now? Well, I don't know. Maybe it is a nice sunny day like we're having here in Philadelphia. Maybe things are...
Maybe Adam.
If you're the owners of the Nuggets, you certainly think the future is bright. You're making this move to try to encourage a little bit of forward movement.
Sure.
Well, our friends at Shady Rays, the future is always bright with them, right? They're helping you get in the right frame of mind with their premium polarized shades that will not break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product. Their sunglasses have durable frames and crystal clear optics. They are the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. We're past the part of the year where we're worrying about skiing and snowboarding and the winter stuff. We're thinking about the beach, right?
Yes.
We're thinking about putting our hands in the huddle and saying 1, 2, 3 Cancun. Or if you're in Denver, 1, 2, 3 Horse Farm, where Nikola Jokic is going to be soon. Wherever you're headed this summer, Shady Rays has you covered. If your shades ever go missing or take an unexpected hit, don't sweat it. They have the most insane protection in all of eyewear, every pair backed by their lost or broken replacement program. And if you don't love your shades, I think you will. But if you don't, you can always exchange them for a new pair or return worry-free within 30 days because there is no risk when you shop with our friends at Shady Rays. Their team always has your back with personal and fast support. So PHLY viewers and listeners, go to shadyrays.com and save 35% off of polarized sunglasses. You need those. Got to protect the eyes and look stylish while you're doing it. Use the code PHLY for that 35% off of the polarized sunglasses. Over 300,000 people have rated Shady Rays 5 stars. So use code PHLY today at shadyrays.com.
And your baseball team is Atlanta to take on that squad. And if you feel like one player in particular, the right fielder, when bad things happen, he hits home runs, you got an overhaul in Denver. You might want to go make a bet that he's going to hit a home run today for your baseball team, because that's what typically happens when bad things go on in our world and our sports. You do so at Bet365, where it's never ordinary. At Bet365, 90 million users worldwide overall, and you should be one of them, like myself, like the team here. Live streams of over 780,000 events a year, live in-game betting that they have pioneered, and early payouts across the NBA and the NHL overall. And maybe if you're looking at a player on Denver right now and you're saying, maybe he wants out, what are the odds that he goes to this particular team? So if you want to place a wager and saying he's going to land here, well, you do so at Bet365. The NBA is tipping off on a Tuesday tonight. Not the Philadelphia team, but a big schedule across the NBA. To NBA tip-off Tuesday, place a qualifying parlay bet totaling $20 or more on tonight's NBA games and get up to $25 in bonus bets. Terms and conditions apply. And breaking news at Bet365, where new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose. Sign up, use code PHLY365, deposit 10, place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 plus and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers podcast, presented by Bet365.
Do you think Bet365 had odds on Nick Nurse outlasting Malone? Could have made some real money on that one.
That's a good.
I have seen some odds for another nice little news item that circles back to something that got me in trouble a while back.
It is something.
Who is the betting favorite to be Nikola Jokic's next team right now, Derek? I believe it is the Los Angeles Lakers. How funny that is.
That would be a heck of a day for your brand.
Boy.
Heck of a day.
Boy, that would be something.
But it does go back, Mr. Sandman. The NBA is a hot mess where losing coaches have more job security than winning coaches. That is 100% true. And it's an absolute, like I said earlier, it's one thing, sometimes you lose a locker room and you don't really have much recourse to try to shake things up. But it's also true that people are so reactionary and they get so, irrational when expectations aren't met. Like, nobody can just accept the fact that some years it just doesn't happen. And some years you get bad luck, or the ball doesn't bounce your way, or you just can't win every time you're out there, and they react and they make damaging change. You brought up before the show of like the fourth longest tenured coach was hired like 3.5 years ago.
Tom Thibodeau.
It's absolutely, there should not be this much turnover in coaches, and I don't know how we stop it.
Well, you don't. And I think, so it's a little different, I think, in basketball, right? Because the power structure in basketball is different than a lot of sports where one player can have such an outsized impact on the game, on the team, on an organization. So if you lose one guy, that could be it, right? Sure. And it's harder in football where, like, yes, the quarterback is the closest analog you have to a star player in basketball, where if you don't have a quarterback, so many other things have to go right for you to even have like a puncher's chance. But even then, right, the locker room is so big and so diverse in terms of just personality, where these guys came from, what they value, what kind of way they play the sport, quite frankly, right? Because an offensive lineman is not the same as a safety, is not the same as a receiver, and so on and on down the list, where if you lose guys, right, in many cases an NFL team can say, we're just getting rid of that guy, right? Yeah. Like we have a coach that we believe in. He has a structure and a system and a way of doing business, like being the CEO of that locker room, that like we'll stand with him over a good amount of the players, right? Not to say you can survive all player mutinies in the NFL, like that. It happens all the time. You lose the locker room and they get fired.
Look at what the Steelers do.
Right.
Yeah, right.
You can insulate yourself some more because there are just there's so many more people, and power is not as concentrated from person to person. So I don't know. And that's not to say like there is no reporting that suggests this is like, oh, Nikola Jokic walked in and said, I need this guy out of here. It seems like this is more a poisoned well situation with how the power dynamic has shaken out there. But when you lose a locker room in the NBA, it is that much harder to recover from because there are only so many guys, right? Like it's a maximum of 15 rostered players plus the two-way guys. And really it just becomes about your top 5, 6 guys. How are they reacting to him? Are they ever going, is this a funk? Is this a prolonged period we're going to go through where we just don't know if these guys will show up and want to fight for this guy?
And then you have the style of coach that the guy is, whether it's a guy that is a tough coach like Malone is.
Very outspoken.
Or you have one that may be a little more laid back where you look at somebody like, I don't know, just pick one. And
well, I mean, Taylor Jenkins, I think actually is probably on the other end of it.
Yeah,
like
Steven Silas for a guy like that where they're rebuilding something and it didn't work out.
What happened to him?
He's too quiet. He's not reaching everything. So he's an easy out, and you bring in who you really want to bring in when things get a little crazy in Boston. But it could be based on the style of guy that you have in your locker room leading things. He was there for 10 years. And sometimes, again, the voice can just get a little stale. Jokic, Murray, their core has been there for a while. Even though they won a championship, the core has been there for a while. Then you bring in a guy like Westbrook, and all the reports were that Jokic did want that, and want him in there. And then you have the shakeup in the front office where they're also changing coaches on the staff from the front office based on reports where that they brought in some guys. They didn't stay based on what Calvin Booth wanted. But when you go back to the coach again and all of that, stylistically and the voice, some guys can't handle that. Or if you're there for long enough, they don't want to hear it anymore. They just don't want to hear it anymore, and you lose them, and they don't want to lose that going into the postseason where they still think they can actually win.
I think Brett's got this whole thing figured out. Just be Pop's assistant. Now, obviously, Pop's held through a wrinkle in that, but I think that is the most secure job in the NBA. That's also, like when, fair. Look, we've been very critical of the Chicago Bulls and how they're not acting rationally, and Karnazovas, and why won't they rebuild? Why won't they tear it down? Why are they hanging on to their pieces? This is why. And look, I think they're a disaster of a front office just based on their decision making. Yeah. But I understand most places do not have the ability to lose for an extended period of time, or in Malone's case, a month and a half, and still keep their jobs.
And I would say this too, like it is another great example of the importance of ownership in stewarding a franchise, right? Because I'm poking fun at the Nuggets fans and like at Jokic a little bit earlier in the show, saying like, wow, couldn't save anybody from getting fired. But if you in your heart believe that Jokic is this all-time player having an all-time season, you can't let it get to mid-April, before the playoffs start, before somebody's ass hits the bricks and is out the door, right? If you know, now maybe you're in a better position in terms of where you're at in the standings and general vibe, and Westbrook's playing better early in the season, whatever, and you don't want to fire somebody, I can sort of understand it, but these guys were both coming up on expiring contracts, right? That generally in the NBA, if you're a coach or an exec, you don't go into the final year of your deal. Yeah. That is not a thing that generally happens, especially with a team that if you have the outcome of a season that you want, you're at least competing for a conference title, right? Like I think with Jokic in his prime and playing the way that he has been, I think if you don't at least make a conference finals, people are going to be upset. And after the season, people will be looking around saying nobody's job is safe, right? You have to make a move before that, right? Like this is a move you make 4 months ago. You say like, this is not tenable. We couldn't get Malone to extend, or we don't believe in Booth's guys, or whatever it is. Fire him then. Move somebody then, because it's unfair to absolutely everybody in the situation, players, executives, coaching staff to say on April 8th, oh, well, new coach, figure it out. Playoffs start in a week and a half. Like that. Nobody can realistically be asked to compete in that situation. So it's bad ownership and bad judgment to sit there and wait until the last possible second when the house is on fire, when the press conferences are the head coach calling out players, when Westbrook is basically throwing hissy fits through the media because he doesn't like the amount of scrutiny that he's taken over the last 3-4 games after that debacle loss in double overtime to Minnesota. Like, you have to be able to see this stuff in advance, right? And I say all this knowing full well, this certainly applies like quadruple to the Sixers, who have not won a title, who have not been to a conference finals, who have had all kinds of BS go on that they have not accounted for or made up for. But that's the job of ownership, right? It's why when we've criticized ownership this year, it's been, you need to be involved. You need to step in and say, this season is BS. This season sucks. And you can't wait until the season's over and we collected all the money and there's no recourse. Like, you have to be proactive. You have to know when to cut bait, when to hold on, when to stick by your people. And that is a full-time, engaged, and active job. And it's the one reason that even though I'm not as gung-ho about, they own the Commanders, they own the Devils, whatever, I don't see how you can be as truly invested and engaged in running a team and doing what's required to run a team if your hand is in all these different pots, specifically in professional sports.
It is the one thing I want from my ownership group is to have conviction.
Yeah.
Because what you're talking about, like, maybe there were signs of this, but they were 37-19 and we didn't really want to make a change. Well, if you actually believe that the core of your organization, that the locker room, that the communication between the front office and the coaching staff is broken, that the trust between the players and the coaches is broken, then make a change before you get this deep into the season. It's almost like what the Bucks did with Adrian Griffin last year. I give them a lot of credit for that. They saw it, even though the results were good. What was Adrian Griffin? He was like
demerit for hiring him, but credit for saying it's not working.
A little bit of a demerit for who they hired to replace him, but at least they had conviction and they said, "Look, this isn't going to work. We know it looks good right now, but we don't believe in it." Either the Nuggets should have been able to realize this earlier, or they're overreacting to a temporary situation now. It almost has to be one of those two outcomes. So either way, they do not have the conviction necessary to run a team.
They probably also did it that way too, just because they did win a couple of years ago and they felt like they can get out of it. And they have this all-world player doing what he does and having this great statistical season again. And they felt like, maybe they'll just get it together.
Oh, no, they should. They should have. If there was a change to be made, I fully believe it should have been the offseason. There's no rationale to me for doing it now.
Yeah.
None.
And or, like you said, the front office maybe do that a little bit earlier than right now. We don't know who the general manager is, but looking at them and where things are going, injuries with Murray, Porter injuries, Jokic is a mainstay outside of the fun part of joining the Lakers and Luka and teaming up there with LeBron. Outside of that,
I find it more likely Jokic would retire than go to the Lakers. I genuinely think that if he gets frustrated
riding off
enough,
into the sunset on one of his horses,
he's going back to Serbia and just hanging out with his horses. And I would respect the hell out of him if he's just like, I'm good, man. I'm out.
Outside of that, I mean, you would think maybe that more shakeup would happen because this is not whoever comes in the front office and, of course, the coach. If there were some issues already with how you look at building the basketball team, maybe they don't think as highly with Jamal Murray in there or even Michael Porter in there, where some things might happen in the offseason with the personnel.
By the way, if you want to talk about some mirror images to think about here, Jamal Murray in September signed an extension that keeps him a Denver Nugget, barring a trade, through 28-29, right? And so that's a decision that was made knowing that Calvin Booth contract was going to expire after this year. Mike Malone at the time was on an expiring contract, that they committed to this guy. And if you look at where the Sixers are, certainly had a much worse season and much worse luck. And, Joel Embiid's situation is a lot thornier than Murray's. But in the same month, you handed out a similar extension keep Joel Embiid on the team through 28, 29.
Yeah.
You had a disaster season. A lot of your big offseason moves panned out poorly. Now they've made up for a little bit of those with some of like the Grimes trade and some of this other stuff, but like the big move, the two big moves, frankly, prior to the season, George and Embiid not looking good. And if you look at the head coach, we've talked about it all year. Nick Nurse has not exactly draped himself in glory during the season before it turned into the tanking fest.
This last month, he's been chef's
Wow.
kiss.
Yeah, but I'm saying
Not as a coach, as a tank commander.
as a tanker.
Well, let's get into more of that on the other side, because as one thing happens in the NBA, you don't see things coming. Maybe it's staring us right there in the face with the Sixers, but we'll talk about it, the possibilities. Of course, we'll get into it certainly once the season comes to an end, but things happen pretty quickly in the NBA, like we saw today with the Denver Nuggets. We'll talk about it when we get back right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast presented by Bet365. And I do need to talk to you about Rothman Orthopedics and getting back to what you love. If you're a weekend warrior or just trying to keep up with the kids, you know how, tough it is when your body doesn't necessarily cooperate with the things that you want to do. Your knees start cracking and this shoulder hurts or the back. Well, that's where Rothman Orthopedics does, in fact, come in for you. Whether it's pain from playing your favorite sport, an old injury that you've been nursing, or just age catching up, Rothman's team of experts is here to help. With evidence-based care and a mission to restore your mobility, they'll get you back on your feet and getting you back to what you love the most. Don't let pain hold you back. Visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY to schedule your appointment today and get back to being your best self. I've had some friends invite me out to play basketball, and as much as Winona and Al tell me no, my mind is telling me yes because I went to Rothman Orthopedics. That's right. So when you do that, you go to Rothman, you get back to normal, you have the confidence to get back out there and do those things. And if you are looking for a place to go, how do I get there? Well, Rothman proudly serves dozens of communities across Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Florida with 30-plus convenient offices, urgent cares, and walk-in centers. And yes, you heard me right, Florida is also on that list. For more information, visit rothmanortho.com/landing/PHLY.
We also want to tell you about TrueMark, especially if you are a recently vacated coach who needs somewhere to put their money. It is now spring, and that means it is time to spring into savings. If you have financial goals, whether it's buying a house, taking that dream vacation, or building your emergency fund, TrueMark Financial Credit Union has a perfect savings account for you. TrueMark Financial offers high-rate certificates and money market accounts to help your money grow faster and work harder for you. Visit TrueMark.com for rates and to learn more. TrueMark Financial, federally insured by the NCUA, equal opportunity lender. Rates are subject to change.
Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers podcast on a Tuesday presented by Bet365. Let's tell you about our draft watch party, the lottery watch party coming up May 12th. Well, the Denver Nuggets somehow, well, they can't, but it would be interesting.
It would be interesting if it could happen in
yes,
reality.
It would. Yes, it would. But we're having a draft lottery party on May 12th right here at our offices, at our studio. And we would love to have you come hang out and join us on May 12th that night as we wait and see what happens with the lottery and the ping pong balls that happens and where the card opens up. Will you see a 76ers logo or an OKC Thunder logo? Got to find out with us here at the office. Become a diehard member because that's the only way you get to hang out with us and join us that evening. And you do so at allphly.com. Go to the events page, see what things look like as far as the date and tell you everything. Time is to be determined because it will be in the evening. We just don't know what's going to happen as of yet as to what time it will be. Well, it will be a 2-hour event to hang out with us here at the offices. We can hang out, get some food, talk some basketball with all of us. Kyle, Derek, Rich, Bree, myself. Vinny might be here and hang out with us as well that night. We'll have food, we'll have some snacks, and we would love to have you in here as a diehard member only to have access to this. Brush up on your Papa Shot, folks, because we know the rims here in the office. You do not. And I put my money on Derek and Kyle and Rich and Bree and me.
Well, Rich, I gotta yell at Rich.
Rich
just passed us. Rich is back into second place.
Yes,
we got to work on that.
Yes, he is. So make
Barbara's
sure.
number one, by the way.
allphly.com. Sign up, become a diehard member, and join us for our watch party. The Flyers are also having one on May 4th or 5th and that's for the Flyers Tankathon that's going on right now with their watch party. So you will also go to the events page, and you'll see the Flyers there as well. And I sign up for both as a diehard member. All right, let's get to the Sixers side of things here, Derek, because while we don't know what's going on, because it's been a wild season, it's been a different season, and we haven't talked about this for over a month because, as you said, he's done a pretty good job of helping the tank and keep them where they are, even though he keeps playing Quentin Grimes and screwing things up where Grimes can go off at any given night and have one of those career nights. But anything can happen, man. Anything can happen, as we saw. Memphis, now Dallas.
Memphis, by the way, 2-3 since they changed their coach, so it's not exactly working out
Season
for a quick turnaround. Yeah.
Dallas trading guys, and you don't know what's going on in there. Anything can happen in the NBA, and anything can happen with the Sixers as well. Nobody's safe.
Oh, 100%. And look, when you have a season as disappointing as this one is, nobody should be safe. Am I convinced something's going to happen? No, I'm not convinced, but certainly nothing is off the table. I don't know. You know, it's a weird spot. And Kyle's brought this up before, and I agree with him, where it's like, doesn't feel like Daryl Morey should get a chance to hire another coach. Like either these two turn it around together or both of them get moved.
Mm-hmm.
That's not always a way it works. In fact, we know for sure that that's not always the way it works. Like we have seen GMs inherit coaches, so they are open to anything. Order of operations does not apply to this group per se. But yeah, it does feel like it's either an all or nothing proposition. And look, I don't think any of them has done a good enough job. Like it's one thing to say injuries, and yeah, injuries have clearly played a huge factor. I was frustrated with Nick Nurse right from the jump, and I thought he should have gotten more out of who he had available for the first month and a half, 2 months of the season before he really knew it had gone sideways. And while I think Daryl Morey has made a lot of moves where you can look back on now and say like, oh, actually, like this is a good move. The draft was great. Grimes was a really good move. Yada, yada, yada. Well, but your two big swings have been failures of, you know, the likes of which we haven't seen in a long time.
Don't say that.
So like, no, nobody's safe. And it'll be really interesting seeing what Josh Harris does. Is he an absentee owner? Is he really have, you know, is this really just driving him nuts? Is losing like this really pissing him off? We'll find out.
I think the entire league has reacted to the Luka trade by saying, why are you telling me we can't do this? Basically, like I think that is a real conversation happening in between ownership and executives and coaches. Like there have been a ton of conversations that have happened at the highest levels around the league where when a guy like that gets moved in what can only be described as a 2K trade where you turned off or you turned on the ability to override the opposing GM, people are saying to one another, why the hell are you telling me this can't happen? Why can't we go from wherever we are right now to being a real threat in the playoffs? Why can't we go from being a playoff team, like a nice playoff team, but we're not, no one's taking us that serious, to a real deal contender? Why can't we get there? I'm not understanding, because I've heard all this stuff. Like imagine being an owner, right? This new CBA goes into place and there are all these provisions put in to restrict trades, to increase parity, and blah. Like we have spent hours and hours and hours, and Derek, with all the time he spent looking at all the new ramifications of the CBA, it's been like, look, I think X, Y, and Z is going to happen. And for a while, it looks like, hey, guys aren't moving in the summer. Paul George is the big free agent who moves, but by and large, like it's a lot of role players and contracts are being suppressed. And it's okay, this just might be like, you have to build from within. Like that's how the NBA works. And then one of the 3 best players in the league moves in the middle of the season to the team that gets everybody in the first place. So owners are like, what the hell is going on? Why is my team not better? I want better. I deserve better. I paid, X amount of money. Like you have to think about how these people think, right? They pay hundreds of millions and now in the billions of dollars for these teams, and they want ROI. And if they aren't making money off of it, if it's not a immediately profitable business, they're saying, why don't I have the cool one? Why don't I have the team that's in the inner circle? Why don't I have the best player? And if I have the best player, why are we not winning? Why are we not a championship contender this year? And I think that trade has broken the brains of some people around the league. So I think even if the Sixers had like a normal season, let's say they went 49 and 33, they go to the second round and they lose, I couldn't sit here and tell you anybody's safe, because I think everyone around the league is reevaluating, 1, what is possible, 2, what is necessary, and 3, now that people are on the market, right? Like Taylor Jenkins available, Mike Malone available, maybe more guys available when this season is over. If you had a bad season, you had a letdown year, you're looking around saying, how does this guy fit? How could this improve our organization? Like I don't think anybody in this league that's not winning a title or close to winning a title should think that they are safe whatsoever.
And by the way, that winning a title only buys you about a year of safety.
And like we've been focused on we've been focused on the NBA, right? But like think about a previous head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, Doug Peterson, famously wins the first Super Bowl in the history of the city, right? This cursed franchise, and he does it with a backup quarterback who otherwise has had a fairly anonymous career before and after that moment, right? He does that, and he only gets a couple years before it's, hey, don't let the door hit you on the way out, buddy. And frankly, there are a lot of people who were like shaming this guy because they tanked the final game of the season for draft positioning in his final season. That's how little leeway you get in professional sports in the 2020s.
That's why you pay attention to stuff when, Josh Harris is with the Washington Commanders now, and he has a basketball guy helping him with his search what's going on there. They have success. They get to the conference championship game way earlier than they expected. So when things go bad and they want to say, maybe they hired a basketball guy to help the basketball team because things aren't going right with the current group of people. And I always said it when it was happening in the moment. I hated when Daryl Morey asked him the question to his face. I've said it on air. I've said it here. Why are you saying when you've gotten to the second round that this was a success and it was better than a year ago when the fan base is dealing with second round exits for 5 years and you're sitting telling them it was a good season and it was, why are you guys upset? It was a success. No, it wasn't.
I think it was a good season, but you don't say it. You
don't say that.
You keep that internal. You say, you know what? I feel bad because I felt good about the season.
Well, he wasn't there, so it didn't count.
But listen, man.
Come on, man. You can't say that.
My favorite one, and he's not involved with the organization anymore, was Doc coming in and being like, well, we went further. Right. Because the season before was a disaster. You didn't go further than the rest of the time. Ben Simmons was hurt too.
Yeah,
it's like you went further because the last season sucked, but you didn't get further than the organization had been. They'd been to the second round. They had won 50 games. It wasn't like this was like some moribund franchise when you take over. So, some of it is just stupid messaging stuff.
Like we always say, read the room, man.
Read the room.
Read the room when you say stuff like that. So, and to your point of hiring another coach, he's had 2. And while he's done well, as you said, with some of these moves, especially the ones around the margins of adding Quentin Grimes and Jared McCain and Dembona, Justin Edwards, things like that, shouldn't be able to hire another head coach. And then he's going to get fired. And then another guy's going to come in while the new head coach is still here. So, no, none of that stuff should happen. NBA is wild. Anything can happen in the NBA. Nobody's safe. And nobody with the Sixers right now should be safe after a 23 and what are they sitting at right now? 54, 55 record that they have with 3 games remaining. Nobody should be safe with this basketball team where things are right now, sitting there on a 12-game losing streak at 23 and 56. Pardon me, lost their last 12 games. Your basketball team. All right, let's get to a couple of other things. Derek, we do have a tank watch tonight.
A big one.
It's an important tank watch tonight, Bree. In Brooklyn.
So I got 2 questions for you guys. First of all, who are you rooting for?
That's a great question. I think I go. I feel like I can count on Sixers to do their job and lose.
Yeah.
So I'm going with the Pelicans.
I'm worried about this Wizards game.
But I'm going with the Pelicans though in this one.
So I'm really fighting. I'm really fighting my urge where my natural inclination is swing for the home run, right? And like, so then you root for the Pelicans. You hope for that outside shot at the fourth pick. But I am slightly worried that some nonsense is going to happen in the Sixers' last 3 games, that they'll be able to steal
Two.
I mean, you're not even stealing against the Wizards. That's a coin flip game, no matter how you slice it. So it's really just, do you randomly win against the Hawks or the Bulls?
Right.
And I think either of those are winnable games.
I'm rooting for the Pelicans. I'm a swing big kind of guy by nature, and I also just don't have faith that the Sixers will win 2 out of 3.
Here are the Pelicans. Brooklyn tonight, at Brooklyn, at Milwaukee on Thursday, home Miami Friday, home OKC Sunday. Pelicans.
It's so weird because
they could definitely beat Miami.
You just don't know who's going to care. You just don't know who's really going to care.
Yeah. Tyler Hero didn't care last night. I could tell you that much.
No, he did not.
Second question. 6 years ago, now the NBA changed the lottery odds. Right now we've talked a lot. The Sixers have a 64% chance of keeping their pick and a 10.5% chance of moving up to number 1. Under the previous system, they would have a 91.2% chance of keeping their pick, but only an 8% chance of moving up to number 1. Which system would you prefer? Just for the Sixers in this year.
For this scenario.
Yeah.
I'll probably go with the old one.
Where you have a 91.2% chance of keeping it?
Yeah.
I think that's probably right.
Yeah, probably go with the old one. By the way, Brooklyn has New Orleans tonight at home, Atlanta Thursday at home. Like you said, Atlanta can be beaten, but Brooklyn stinks, like really bad.
And their injury list tonight is, I haven't checked it today, but even yesterday, like a day out from the game, it was, who the hell do they even have available to play?
At Minnesota on Friday, who is still in that mix of where we talked about Denver.
Minnesota's going to be gunning for it.
So, and then they have New York on Sunday in New York, final game of the season.
Our boy Vince Pellegrini
in
saying,
Brooklyn, sorry.
If the Sixers don't sit Grimes and Yabusele against the Wizards, then Nick Nurse should set the record for the coach fired latest in the season.
Well, he's not. They're not sitting.
So
you gotta sit him.
The Nets tonight, Clowney, Cam Johnson, Keon Johnson, Melton, who I completely forgot was on the Nets for a moment, D'Angelo Russell, Day'Ron Sharpe, Cam Thomas.
All out.
For the Pelicans, looks like Brandon Boston, Jordan Hawkins, Herb Jones, McCollum, Trey Murphy, DeJounte Murray. Olynyk is available. That's nice.
There you go.
And then Zion is out. Alvarado also available for tonight's game.
As long as you have Jose Alvarado, you're good to go.
Alvarado and Olynyk. So what's up?
Hawkins is out?
Hawkins is out.
Okay. Huh.
He has a, very specific injury. Lumbar spine annular fissure.
Meanwhile, Joel Embiid has a procedure in his knee area.
That's happening this week.
Let's have at it. Go Pels. Go Pels tonight. That is our Tank Watch, as always, brought to you by no one in this one. All right, let's get to, what are we doing, Bree? We doing the game now?
Yeah, we can do it.
Let's have a little fun here with the gang here. We've talked about this before. Kyle has said it mostly.
Is this guy left-handed or right-handed?
It is not. It is not. That's a great one that we had fun. What was that, Drew Holiday?
I don't remember who it was.
It was Jalen Brunson.
It was Jalen Brunson. There you go. All right, let's get to our new game for this week. And we might do this a little bit more as we go along because there's so many players in the league. Who's that guy?
Oh, boy.
Remember we talked about the Charles Barkley, who he played for, and we would always make fun of that one? And all these 2-ways and 10-day contracts with these guys?
Man, pulling up a Wizards player, that's tough.
If you think I've watched a Wizards game outside of watching the Sixers-Wizards game,
I almost have a better chance of guessing the overtime elite than I do the Wizards.
So, of course, we're going to give you the team he currently plays for and the college or high school that he went to. And
overtime elite is killing me because those,
yeah. All right. Okay. All right. So we have
I assume
5.
this is a no cheating zone.
No cheating zone. No cheating zone. Please. Yeah. No cheating zone. Who's that guy? Wizards player right now. We'll see him tomorrow. That's for sure. We'll check in with him tomorrow. Overtime elite. He was of course a top prospect. Went the overtime elite route.
Jalen Martin?
There you go.
I looked it up.
Couldn't get through the first guess without cheating.
To be fair, it was like the third person I pulled up, so it was pretty quick.
Oh my God.
All right, that's fine because we have 5 of these for today that we're going to run through. Jalen
I mean,
Martin.
neither of us knew. Neither of us knew.
That's fair.
we were
I was
listening.
not getting it.
All right, but you guys got the premise. Folks, if you're in the chat, make sure you jump into.
My God.
Bree,
I would have never gotten that.
Who's the next?
Never.
Who's that guy?
Never.
Celtics, Alabama.
Oh.
You guys know this guy.
I do know that one.
I do, and I'm blanking on his damn name.
Love the hair. Bree, that's a great picture. Love the hair.
Fantastic hair. As somebody, I'm very jealous of the hair.
You guys know. I'll say this. His first name is just initials.
It's J.D.
Steph Curry's college.
Davison. J.D. Davison. Right?
There you
Hey!
go. Who's that guy? Who is that guy? All right, let's go to the next one for Who's That Guy? Here on the PHLY Sixers podcast. We just saw this guy. How much were you paying attention to the Raptors-Sixers game?
Not much.
Played for Fresno, currently with the Raptors. Who's that
Darkness
guy?
said Anna Horford, by the way. Darkness, I appreciate you.
Good
buddy.
one, Darkness. Who's that guy?
Oh, you're killing me with these.
Are you serious? You just saw him.
Oh, big man, right?
Yes, when I was out,
I'm
you
gonna
guys
give
were
him a
giving him
minute.
his props.
I know who it is.
Go ahead.
Who's that guy?
Orlando Robinson.
Yeah.
There you go. Orlando Robinson, who's that guy?
All right, I'm 2 or 3 without cheating, so I'm feeling
1 of
pretty
3.
good.
I'm just gonna take that.
Let's
one.
get to player number 4, Bree. You guys like this guy as a draft pick.
Yeah.
Played for the Knicks. He's a rookie out of Kansas. Plays for the Knicks right now. Doesn't play a lot. Did see him play the other night on Sunday because it was a blowout. Who's that guy? I know we talked about him on draft night for sure as a guy that you could potentially.
Boy, I
look
might have
at.
been faking it then. I don't know. Who knows?
So this would have been the 2024 draft.
2024 draft. Yeah, 2024 draft. Yeah, out of Kansas.
Yeah.
I know you watched the
Oh, I'm
tournament.
sure.
Yeah. Who's that guy?
Haven't thought
Chat,
about
what's
him at
going on? Who's that guy?
Oh, wait.
Sandman says Ja Rule.
I think
Bad Bunny.
I think I know. And if I'm wrong on this, my Kansas fan buddy Tom is going to be very
Tom's
upset.
gonna get you.
It's McCullough, right?
Yes, it is. Kevin
All
McCullough
right.
Jr. Yes.
Let's go.
Who's that guy? And finally, to wrap up the Who's That Guy?
The guesses were Ja Rule, Bad Bunny, and someone said he looks like Wallow with hair.
All right, who's that guy? Nets, UConn, Pennsylvania native. Pennsylvania native. Drafted by the Hawks a few seasons ago in the second round. We all rooted for him, of course, as a local guy. And I think he got the standard contract with the Nets this year, of course. because
I'm
he
out
played
on this
well.
one. I'm blanking
First
on this
name also has a very common name in the NBA today, and one of your All-Stars has that name as well. First name.
One of our All Stars.
One of the Sixers All-Stars. First name.
Tyrese?
Tyrese what?
Martin.
Who's that guy?
There you go.
You guys got 4 of the 5 today here on Who's That Guy? Brought to you by no one. Welcome to Overtime here, folks. Not elite overtime or overtime elite. It's our overtime here.
Melo 3 points right. He did look a lot like Zach LaVine.
Yes, you did.
Just like whoever that guy was last night pregame in San Antonio looked like evil Chalamet.
We're in overtime here. And
What
make
was his
sure
name?
you go to allphly.com.
There's
Thanks to all the
Benson
TV guys on
Benson
Fast.
Boone. There you go, Bree. Good call, man.
There you go. Very famous. Do you like Who's That Guy?
Sure.
Kill some time there. Who's that guy?
I'm just glad I didn't completely embarrass myself like Charles
That's it.
Barkley.
Did good.
Study up on end of bench guys for the next one, but
Yeah. But yeah, you did way better than Charles Barkley, who he played
Listen.
for. Yeah, you did way better than that. Bree, thank you so much as always for the
Thank you,
graphics
Bree.
and all of that stuff that you put together. The great graphics. The J.D. Davison, obviously, that was the best one with the hair.
Remo K said that's Timu Damian Lillard.
no, I saw way more Zach LaVine in there. Way
I
more.
agree.
All right, Tyrese Martin.
Maybe he's referring to his skill set. I don't know.
Okay.
All right, so we'll bring back Who's That Guy next week when we have 3 p.m. shows all next week.
Oh my gosh.
All next week as we
A
get
lot of
back
3
to our
p.m.
regular
We're going to have
scheduled
weekends. We're going to have a regular schedule.
evenings. Yeah, right, Bree? Got some night times.
And we'll have you guys with us as always.
As always. And as always, as we end the show, before we get to the world famous roll call, it's time for the daily Tankathon spin
Who's doing it?
from Derek Bodner.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
Yesterday was a
God.
bad day. It was just
Oh,
one bad
boy.
day with a lot of bad spins. Redeems himself today.
Well, and then immediately afterwards, I spun a second time, got the number 1 pick.
Yes, you did. Sixers 2.5 games back of the Brooklyn Nets. They take on the Pelicans tonight. Still in 5th spot. What do we do, Derek? Where are we at? Tankathon spin.
First pick.
Oh, ding, ding, ding. Where's that bell?
There you go.
Has anybody changed your opinion on who you take? No.
No.
He missed that fadeaway shot. I don't know, man.
Drop him down.
Good look.
Listen, after seeing what Houston did to Clayton for most of that game, when you consider that Cooper had
They're
a
a really good
fairly
defense.
efficient 27, 7, and 4, that was...
Any later thoughts on the travel? I texted you last night and sent you the travel.
No, I mean,
The rule book still says travel because he left his feet and put the ball down.
okay.
But others are saying because he did put the ball down without dribbling it before, it's
Right.
still a live dribble.
Yeah, I thought that was my initial read too.
I still think travel.
I mean, you can't just drop the ball then. Like, you've got to either get a shot up, get the pass, throw it off the guy, do something.
Do
Like,
the
you can't
Marcus
just
Page.
set the ball down.
Do the Marcus Page.
But I understand, like, you're in that spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was critical of the play.
Play was good.
Honestly, watching the replay, I was like, if you just pump fake and let him go by you, you're getting a clean look at a 3 in the national championship
Still
to
had the
end the
live
game.
dribble. Yeah. Walter Clayton, by the way, how to get lost in the paint while he's sprinting up to the 3-point line.
Seriously.
He recovered really well to force that turnover. But
Yep.
my man, if he would have made that shot because you took a little too long, that would have been bad. But yeah, number 1 overall pick. You get Cooper Flag, you get the 35th overall pick. Now you can mess around a little bit, take something there.
Trade everybody else.
There you
know?
go. Good stuff. Cooper,
No, yeah.
Cooper Van Horn.
The
Derek
number
Darkness
one with a bullet. After that, even then, like 2 is still clear for me. Mm-hmm. It's everything else.
It's chaos after that, real quick.
1,
I want
locked
to be
in
talking
1,
about it.
locked in 2, and then complete anarchy after that.
Well,
I
we will
think.
certainly have a month to talk about it. The question is, will we have another month to talk about who they actually should pick
Right.
as we get ready for the June draft? Is it, what night is it? I mean, it's a Thursday night.
27?
27? No, 26.
26th?
26. I think Friday's the
Guys,
27th.
I'm like, what Vin Diesel said in Fast and Furious, it's 1 mile at a time. I'm 1 week of shows at a time. I worry about the draft.
When's the lottery?
Huh?
You know this one. When's the lottery?
The 12th.
Yeah.
That's when our event is.
you
And
go.
we talked about it during this exact show. So that's why I know that. Other than that, it's like I wake up every day and it's like, that's what's happening today.
There you go.
Like when Devon knows hey, we're gonna have this show on Friday pregame at 7:00 sharp. I'm like, I guess they are playing the Lakers this week. Interesting.
I am definitely a next game kind of person.
yeah.
I'm an all week. Have to do the all week. kinda-
Nothing wrong with that.
kinda
One of
schedule.
us has to be.
All right, let's get to the world famous roll call here on this
Ooh,
Tuesday.
I
Our
have
only
some-
3 p.m. show of the week.
Off air, something I want to talk to you about. I got an email. It'll be some very exciting stuff that maybe we'll incorporate into the show.
Let's do that.
Thank you, everybody, for being here today and hanging out with us, talking about a little Mike Malone, Denver Nuggets.
What up,
Sixers
Mike?
nonsense.
Come finish the show with us the rest
Who's
of the
that
way.
guy?
Yeah.
By the way, we never really got into. I think it's a little out of turn to be like, what would you think of Mike Malone as the Sixers coach when they still have?
I
a
always
coach?
ask you guys
It's
that,
a
like
little
the
weird.
Taylor Jenkins thing. I didn't ask you because you did bring it up, so I just left it there.
I would just say this before we go. I'm very curious what type of job Mike Malone would be after, right? Because I do think he'll have his pick of some jobs in the future. Question is, do you want to take a job immediately? Or, and I'm thinking of one specific job, not that he would be a guarantee to get it. Anybody who's out of work right now or anybody who's got head coach aspirations has got to be looking at San Antonio, knowing that Pop is probably close to being done, like very uncertain, and saying, man, if I could get my hands on Wemby and just be, I'm the Wemby guy for the next however many years he plays. I'm just keeping an eye on that. That's all I'll say. Anyway, thank you everyone for coming in today. First and foremost, the name we somehow always mess up, MBD DBF. Oh, we did get a super chat from Vince, by the way, who said they need to sit Grimes and Yabu for the Wizards game.
Not happening.
But they need
maybe,
to.
But they
Vince,
should.
you're right. For once, I'll say you're right, and I agree. No equivocation.
Remember, we kept saying, all right, they're going to play him, they're going to play him. He needs to sit like the final 5 games. Now we're at 3. He needs to sit.
And look, if anybody's been watching the show for a while, you know we are not predisposed to telling Vince he's right. If anything, we are predisposed to telling him to shut up and that he's wrong. So if we agree with him, we really agree with him.
Good job, Vince. We finally agreed on something. So thank you, Vince. Thank you to Chi. Thank you to my girl, Winona.
Hey, Nona.
Thank you to Yams.
What up, Yams?
Thank you to Mello 3 Point.
Mello, my man.
To Money Mar.
Congrats on the
to
Hall of Fame.
DJ, a.k.a. Mr. Sandman.
Bring me a dream,
to
number
MBD DBF.
What up, MDB?
Remo K. Jess with the Purple Heart.
Got the Purple Heart.
We got Darkness.
Turn the lights down for Mike Malone
in
and
the
Calvin
building.
Booth.
Provolone John. Mom's grandchildren. Hello, Mom.
Called her earlier. She didn't respond.
Also, Jesse Bond.
Putting her on blast like this.
Jesse Bond corrected me and said it's 1/4 mile at a time.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's true.
That's correct.
That is true.
It is.
Yes.
What'd you say?
I said 1 mile at a time.
Okay.
It's 1/4 mile because that's, like 0 to
racing.
60 race or whatever. You better love somebody.
Love somebody. Love
Moxie
somebody.
10. We got Ben hanging out today. Thankfully not Ben Simmons because we'd have to have some tough conversations around here.
He's always online.
Mary Overfield hanging out with us.
Hey, Mary.
INS with us today.
INS.
With us almost always too. Randy Rubart, who said
see
if Vince is going to be at the event, I'll be there. Well, good news. Vince will be there. So Randy, you better come to the
See you May
PHLY offices on May 12th. Jeffrey Stewart hanging
What up,
out.
Jeff?
Superb. Is that Triune worshiper?
Triune worshiper?
Triune?
You know them?
I have no idea.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Worshiper of some sort. Thanks for being here. SB Cole, Neil Deaver.
What up,
Number
Neil?
1 Philadelphia-based Jokic defender in the chat. I'm just kidding, Neil. Good to see you as always. Good to see everybody who is in here today and hanging out with us. Got a mixed crowd,
Mixed
Get
crowd.
some Sixers people, some Nuggets people.
Saw Sal in there.
Sal hanging out. Igavini, I'm sure, was in here at some point. But we love all our people. Vic was in here.
What up, Vic?
Maybe Sir Shmooey. I don't know. We have all kinds of
Jungle?
regular.
Was Jay in there?
No, but
Always
we love Jay around here. We love all our people.
What up, Al?
If you have not, please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you get notifications each and every time we go live. And hit the thumbs up, number 1, because Derek won on Tankathon today, and that is worth celebrating. But number 2, and more importantly, super producer Bree holding it down, making graphics, making things work behind the scenes. So thank you to Bree, is shown in the form of a nice thumbs up on the show. Guys, we will be back tomorrow night for Sixers Wizards pregame and postgame, which is at what time, Devon?
6:30 pregame.
6:30 sharp.
better
This
be.
time, I'll
Only
make
is.
sure I don't get stuck behind a tree for 15 minutes trying to get my car out of a parking spot, and I'll be there on time.
Criminal what they're doing over there.
We hope to see you all then. Until then, be safe. Have a nice day. And thank you to Bet365,
As always.
for presenting the show. Goodbye.
See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.